Hello, and welcome back to the value of your keen connections. How keen connections can transform your life. Now, this is module one, and in module one, we would talk about what is a keen connection. Now, a keen connection, again, is that one connection that can significantly improve your life in a positive, measurable way. As before, we talked about a keen connection was a connection that you can actually impact your life. As we talked about, increase your revenue by 10 times. You can fund a new project. If you're a book, if you've written a book or you're an author, your book can become a bestseller. You can create a product launch, generate millions of dollars of your first sale, and your life will never be the same. And so here in module one, we're going to really get into the core of what a keen connection is. Now, I have here Oprah Winfrey as the definitive keen connection. And that's because of what's called an O effect. Oprah is someone who can significantly impact your life by just being on her show. I'm going to get more into that in a little later. But what I want to talk about, what our goals are in module one, what objectives are in module one, is we're going to talk about ways to identify your keen connection. We're going to talk about how you're one connection away from your keen connection, and that's important. Understanding how you go about having that kind of philosophy and what your strategy needs to be within that philosophy. Research, and how research is the key to being prepared. Then we're going to talk about increasing your leverage, so that once you connect with that keen connection, how do you go about increasing your leverage so that you become valuable to them as well? So that's what you really want. You don't really want it to be a one-way relationship where they have all the value and you have none of the value. But we're going to talk about, as we go through the journey of connecting with intent, and how you establish your value. And so when you get to that keen connection, you are a valuable connection to them as well. So let's begin with identifying your keen connections. Now, identifying your keen connections. I have someone who is very influential. Now, again, for me, this is my definition of a keen connection. And I believe a keen connection, each person should have their own definition and what applies to them. Someone who is very well connected. Have a lot of connections. And again, that's how they can increase your revenue by 10 times, because of their connections and their level of influence. There's someone who has a large amount of social capital. Now, again, social capital is that capital where people respect you because of what you've accomplished and what your character stands for. Someone like Gandhi. I've often used the example that if Gandhi was still alive and he was invited over here to the United States to speak at a conference, do you believe that Gandhi would have to pay for his plane flight? Do you believe that Gandhi would have to pay for a hotel or pay for a car rental or incur any cost? My answer would be no. I don't believe he would. I believe that his plane flight would be paid for. He would probably be able to stay at the White House if he did come over here and stay. I believe he would have a limo driver that takes him everywhere he needs to go. I believe his food would be free. He would fly first class or probably on a private jet. That's if he chose to. Of course, we all know Gandhi's values. He probably wouldn't travel that way, but he would have those options. And that's social capital, where you don't even have to spend money. And people want to do things for you because of the type of person who you are. And so for me, someone who has a large amount of social capital is a keen connection. There's someone I admire, and I admire them because of the fact of what they've achieved in their life, things that they've done, struggles and obstacles they've overcome. There's someone who has reached a level of success that I'm seeking. That's definitely important because I can follow their pattern and look to do the things they did to become successful. And I can use their life as a walking blueprint or a map, so to speak, to get to the level of success I want in that particular area. And then finally, there's someone who I connect with on at least 3 of my connection threads. And we're going to really get into what are connection threads and the importance of connection threads in this module as well. So before we really get too deep into this, I really want to hammer home the definition of keen connections by showing you an example of some of my keen connections. And so here we have my keen connections. And you see I have them here. They're listed in alphabetical order because this tool that I'm using here, the brain again, which is a visual representation of my brain, I have chosen to list them in alphabetical order. However, it's not necessarily in the order that I want to go about making these connections. For example, I have Amy Goodman. And I don't know if many of you know who Amy Goodman is, but Amy Goodman is the creator of Democracy Now! And she's a journalist, syndicated columnist, an investigative reporter, and she's also an author. And see, again, for me, that's someone who I aspire to be, an author. I just finished my first book. I'm working on building my own network similar to Democracy Now! And it's a program where I get my news source and information. And you can see here, I can click on Amy Goodman. If I wanted to, I can actually go to her show, and right here with an internet link, I can actually go to her show. This is why I love the brain, by the way. It's a plug for the brain. But I can go to Wikipedia and get some more information about Amy Goodman. And you see here, I'm saying that what you want to do about, what you want to know about your King connections is you want to collect 13 key data points to get to understand them better. So you can really truly understand who your King connection is and the value that they bring to you. So it's not just randomly picking a person who may be financially successful and say, I want this person to be my King connection. It's really getting clear on why this person's a King connection for you, because it's going to take some time for you to be able to connect with them. And when you connect with them, you want to know why you're connecting with them to help you continue along their journey. So of course, their name, their email address, their cell phone if you can get it, social media. So of course, the deeper and the more you get to know this person, this is how this information gets flushed out. Eventually, when you first starting off, you're just going to have their name and not even have this personal information. Here is their email, their cell phone. But that's something that once you get to that point where you can get into their personal inner circle, you get this information. The social media accounts, their profile characteristic type, their business name, if they have one, their level of influence, the connections they have in their network, hobbies that they have, causes that they support that's important to them, passions, what drives them, what motivates them. Do you have those things in common with them? Political interests, this is critically important. And then connection threads. Now, what are connection threads? Connection threads are, I consider to be 7 key points that you can actually connect with someone on. And when you connect with them, it establishes a relationship much deeper. For example, communication. Can you both communicate very well? Integrity. Are you both a persons of sound integrity? Because everybody wants to connect with someone of sound integrity, of great integrity, that has a lot of integrity. Passion. Of course, if two people are passionate and you share passions, that's a great connection thread. That's one of the ways that people will love to connect with you and look to do business with you further. Principles. Are your core principles aligned? And then, of course, the purpose. You share a similar purpose in life. And trust. Are you a person of high trust, just as they are? And see, if you have that kind of character and you have that track record, then, again, it makes it easier for your King connections to want to connect with you as well. And then the value, not values in the context of what you believe, but values as far as what your skills, your talents, and your abilities. Those are your connection threads. And so as we go forth, you want to make sure you're doing that. You're connecting with them on those connection threads. And so again, that's just showing you Amy Goodman. But I want to go back here for right now to Oprah Winfrey. Because again, like I said before, Oprah is the definitive King connection. Because we've all heard of, or we've experienced, we've seen what they call the Oprah effect, or the O effect, in which being on her show, just being in her presence, has launched the career of several different people. For example, I have here Oprah's influence, and these are the kind of people that she's helped. Bob Greene. And Bob Greene was Oprah's personal trainer, and because of the relationship with Oprah, he's now an author. He's written 2 books, co-wrote with Oprah. Dr. Oz, we all know about Dr. Oz, started his own show because of Oprah. Dr. Phil, and we also know about Dr. Phil, started his own show as well. Dr. Phil has written 6 #1 bestseller books since his relationship with Oprah. Gayle King, Now, a lot of people always make jokes about Gail because Gail's claim to fame is really just being Oprah's friend. But again, it just really shows you the power of a king connection. She's Oprah's childhood friend, and because of that relationship, now Gail brings some value to Oprah, and because of that, she's been Oprah's editor of her magazine. She also has a Gayle King show on Oprah Winfrey's network. You know, Iyanla Vanzant's career blossomed because of her relationship with Oprah, and Oprah had on her show, and she was considered to be the #1 relationship expert in 2001. A woman by the name of Lisa Price. This woman created her own cosmetics, beauty products in her kitchen, and because she was able to get on Oprah Winfrey's show and demonstrate her products, she is now a multi-million-dollar. She created a company called Carol's Daughter, which is a multi-million-dollar company. Nate Beckers, he's a home interior designer that came to fame because being on Oprah's show and showing his home designing ability, showing his skills. Rachel Ray. Now, we all know Rachel Ray. We love her cooking show, and again, Oprah was a launching pad for her, and she's also written books as well because of that. Stedman Graham, who's really, again, he's a world-renowned public speaker, successful businessman. Now, he was always that in his own right, but he's known to the world now as Oprah's boyfriend, Oprah's mate. And then we have Susie Orman. And Susie Orman grew to financial success because of her relationship with Oprah. And see, that's the effect that a king connection can have for you. So that's why I say Oprah is a definitive king connection, because she's able to increase your presence, and increase your acceptance, all because of her influence. And if we go back here to where I talk about what is a king connection and how to identify your king connection, you think about, again, is she someone who's very influential? Yes. Is she someone who's very well connected? Yes. Is she someone who has a large amount of social capital? Yes. Is she someone who I admire? Yes. Is she someone who has reached a level of success that I like, that I choose, that I pursue? Yes. And finally, do I connect with her on several different connection threads? I believe I do. Passion, principles, value, communication, trust. I believe I connect with Oprah on all of my connections, on all the connection threads. And so that's what I really want to stress in this particular section. Now, in the next section, we're going to talk about some of my other king connections, and we're going to talk about one way, or having a philosophy that you're one connection away from your king connection.